Ken Vister,
Here.
Ken Anderson is not here, Franklin Hahn.
Here.
Runnigan,
Here.
Jim Weezer.
Here.
Okay.
Anybody get a chance to read the minutes? Any corrections, additions? Questions on the minutes?
Move to accept the minutes.
There's a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Okay, I guess, public, go ahead, Mark. Public,
Notice,
yeah, notice.
notice of public hearing, please take notice that an application was received from the following persons for a variance of setback requirements. Brian and Sarah Erman, part of the southwest quarter of the southwest. Southwest quarter of the southwest quarter, section 1, township 101, range 6, Houston County, Minnesota. Parcel 15-0007001, Wilmington Township, variance to reduce side yard setback. Section 14.8 subdivision 1. Hearing on this application will be held at the Houston County Commissioners Room, City of Caledonia, Minnesota at 5 p.m. on Thursday, June 27th, 2024. All persons having an interest in the matter will be given the opportunity to submit comments relative to the granting or denying of said application. Comments should be mailed to the Environmental Services Department, 304 South Marshall Street, Caledonia, Minnesota 55921, or email to martin.herrick@co.houston.mn.us. Must be received by Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. Comments in regard to the petition received by the state will be part of the public record and will be made available for review by the Board of Adjustment prior to the meeting. Houston County Board of Adjustment by Mark Herrick, zoning administrator.
Is the applicant here? You want to come up and sit down here if you would? Tell us what your plan is.
For the variance
Well,
or the building permit?
you come in for a building permit, but the granary is too close to the property line.
Right, yep,
So
Yeah.
this granary now, not that I'm picking your granary,
Sure.
but is that just a storage shed or what is it, the granary?
my kids' chickens are in there right now
Oh,
and
okay.
some storage, yeah. It was when we bought the property from Blaine Ludall and Red Dolly. It was the only building left that had a good roof and cement under it, wasn't rotting from the bottom up or the top down. So we kept it, and that was the property lines that they drew out, so. That's where it was, and Bob Scanlon approved it at the time, back in 05, and so. And we have, we sided it and put in a garage door and painted the roof, those sort of things, so it's, yeah, it's kind of permanent where it sits.
So in 05, then we didn't have the zoning ordinances that we have today.
I think we did. Yes, we have.
Oh,
We would have. That's setback requirement.
But it was another split. When,
well, just ask it.
yeah. We deal with these splits all the time.
But this is just basically missed at that time.
Well, the other side of it is that this is very tricky, is that we don't review the property split. We come after the fact. When we come back the next time around, that's where it gets caught. So, in terms of what Bob would have been doing, he wasn't really reviewing in terms of the fact that the split. I mean, he might have given you a permit for, giving you a permit for, he would have given you a permit for the house.
Yeah, there was
For the other
construction.
dwelling,
We built a house then on that site,
Oh, okay.
and that's where we live, so
but
it's kind of the same situation. It was, yeah,
Changed at that time. Yeah. But it would be related to
okay.
Oh, okay.
but the rule was 50-foot setback for the side yard setback. They have not been,
You review those now, don't you?
yes. And there is some discussion about a rule package. We're talking about going back and looking at setbacks.
How do you mean?
Well, the commissioners asked us, about the idea of. You have a list of things that could potentially consider. Amelia came out with 46 items. Dropped them on and said, funny you should ask. So setbacks were one of them. Like, you brought up that, feedlot. Isn't that one of them there? So in other words, your question has certainly been given consideration. Some of these setback issues and all these other things that just constantly keep coming up. They're asking us if we do a rule package, something like that would certainly be considered, that would those be addressed? That's the idea.
Yeah, my issue is not with the rule itself. My issue is with the fact that we're allowing these splits with setback issues to happen. You review them now, which is a good thing, but you don't have any teeth. If they want to do a split with a setback issue, it can be done. It can still be done.
And a lot of counties do go after.
What do you mean go after?
Oh, no. Review setbacks. Right,
Okay.
At the time of the split,
yes.
is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, those splits gotta be recorded, and the attorney always draws them up, and they're recorded, so if the recorder's office would notify the zoning office, that would be.
Or vice versa. If you notified the recorder and said there's an issue with setbacks, don't record it. I don't know if you can do that, but that would be the simplest solution.
And then they have a process, and then it goes to the recorder, but the problem is that they only have a matter of like 5 days to do their part of the process, and so in order for us to put it in a formal process here amongst the departments, we need to make sure that we can all accommodate that timeline. And that's where there's just been a lot of staff changes, and so the commissioners haven't felt that we've been in a good position to try to implement something like that at this point, so we deal with them at various.
I don't mean to take up your time. We've been talking about this for years. But go ahead. And this,
No, it's interesting to me too, because I mean, from my standpoint, when it happened, then we would have just went back and said to Blaine and Red, this is off. We can, we had agreed on 7 acres out of their 80. Can we just adjust the east line and take away a little on the south line? We had that flexibility. I'm sure a lot of these don't, but it could have been taken care of then.
But most of us, including myself, until I got on this board, I didn't know what the setbacks were. The average person doesn't.
Yeah.
I'm not being critical.
No,
So now you came in for a permit, not that it makes you different, but you're gonna build a storage shed. That's how this
yeah,
came about.
an agricultural building, yeah, steel.
And that's okay then, where he's gonna build it?
Yep.
Okay.
is a no-brainer for me.
Did we get any public comments?
Nope.
No.
Yeah, it borders one farm field. They're fine with it.
Are you right on that new blacktop?
No.
No.
Heartland Drive,
Oh, yeah, don't make any difference there.
just past the stave mill.
Yeah, you're you're on the. If you go, you're just past your place, the Four Corners,
No,
no?
no, if you head toward Eitzen on 76,
Oh,
after
toward
this-
Dyson.
after the stave mill, take a
Oh, the
left.
stave mill there, oh,
That stave mill, yep.
I was thinking the tie mill at Springfield.
No, not
Okay.
that mill.
Okay, no, that's immaterial.
Like Kavanaugh lives on the back of our road. I know he maintains some of the townships.
So is that where the campground used to be?
They're down the hill. They're down the hill. We're between the
You're above
campground
it?
and the stave mill. Yeah, Yep, we're above it.
So the board have any more questions, comments or anything for?
It all looks good to me.
Well, I guess if there isn't any more, we can go to the findings.
Okay. The variance request is in harmony with the intent and purpose of official controls. Staff analysis, the accessory structure greenery to a non-farm single-family dwelling is a permittable activity in the Ag protection district. Permitted activities meet the intent of the comprehensive.
We should have roll call on, but this one here, because there was controversy last meeting, not with our board. But this is cut and dried, so if it agrees, we'll just go aye instead of. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? Go
Can I
ahead.
ask a question? Why do you refer to the granary as a single family dwelling
It's an accessory structure.
to a single family? Okay,
To-
gotcha. Okay.
yeah. Number two.
Go ahead.
Number two, there are practical difficulties in complying with the official controls, and the proposed use of the property is reasonable. Economic considerations alone do not constitute practical difficulties. Staff analysis, creating a larger setback between the granary and the agricultural field would require purchasing additional farm field that is not practical to counter the agricultural protection goals of comprehensive land use. Additionally, relocating the building is not.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed, nay. Go ahead.
Number three, the variance request is due to special conditions or circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner. Staff analysis, the property was purchased as a split parcel.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? Go ahead.
Number four, the variance cannot be alleviated by a reasonable method other than a variance, and the minimum variance which would alleviate the practical difficulty is sought. Staff analysis, the board may find that the variance related to the granary is the only way to feasibly resolve the setback issue, and that the variance to the side yard setback is the minimum variance that would alleviate the non-compliance.
Everybody in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? Go ahead.
Number five, the variance will not alter the essential character of the locality nor substantially impair property values or the public health, safety, or welfare in the vicinity. Staff analysis, granting the variance will not have a negative impact on the criteria listed above.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
I,
Opposed? Go ahead.
Number six, the request is not a use variance and shall not have the effect of allowing any use that is not allowed in the zoning district. Permit a lower degree of flood protection than the regulatory flood protection elevation, or permit standards lower than those required by Minnesota state law. Staff analysis, the granting of the variance to the side yard setback requirement in the agricultural protection district does not conflict with any restricted uses. There is no map floodplain on the parcel. There are no known state standards applicable to the request.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? If there isn't any more questions, if there isn't, then motion to accept the findings, but if there's any questions or comments, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to accept the findings.
second,
All in favor, say aye.
I,
I,
Opposed? Motion is carried. So then I guess we go on to the variance. If that's what you want to do.
well. I move we grant the variance of 17 feet to reduce the side yard setback requirement for an accessory structure.
I'll second it.
Made second, any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion is carried.
You know, one solution, and I don't know if this would, but it seems to me that if we had a requirement that that variances have to be in place, if there's a setback issue on a split, that the variance has to be in place before it's recorded. What you've got then is some people would be more inclined to split with meeting the requirement as opposed to paying for a Board of Adjustment meeting. We've got to give some there's some incentive for people to do these splits so they comply.
That-
Well, that's what I mean. They'll do the split so that it complies as opposed to requiring a Board of Adjustment hearing that they've got to pay for. And then they're in,
realize. I mean, in a lot of instances, they are, because everybody is extremely leery of. Can I build something here in the future? Or can I do something? And so we see a lot, but we don't automatically.
but if that were in place, if they had to be to comply with setbacks prior to the split, and if they didn't, they had to get the variance first. I don't know, somehow, we've dealt with so many of these, it seems like such a waste of money and
That's
time.
that.
I don't know how you'd enforce it though, unless at the recorder's office or the assessor's office, they wouldn't let it go through. Would be the only way you'd
They
enforce.
would be necessary. Automatic.
But this would be something that would have to be, well, I don't know, I would imagine would have to be put in the ordinance, the county ordinance.
So.
We kind of covered it there. And then we maybe grandfather. In my time here, I think there's been a lot of education that's been done. And then people have been taught in report stories, so I think that attorneys are better about checking. The surveyor, usually if they're doing a parcel split, the local one, are good about calling and saying, well, and I can't get, there's not 100 feet. And so there's just, I think Aaron was kind of proactive in getting some of that work done, and I think we're seeing the benefit of that, a lot of things that we're doing.
Yeah, they're old ones. But there's still no, I mean, they can still go ahead and record a split that doesn't comply.
I got a question for you, Martin, we're in the discussion period. now before we leave here. Yeah, you don't have to say,
It's interesting.
well, you can say, it's
Yeah.
public
If
meeting.
you have the answer.
I'm glad you said the surveyor. That's
When a person comes in for a building permit, do you, and I'm asking because I don't know, do you sit down with this person and say, well, now, here's the zoning ordinances and you're too close here, or how do you handle?
Basically, I have a screening sheet. Fill out. They come in and I really encourage people to come in. Pull the screens up and say, okay, we're gonna bring up your site. And let's give you a rough idea of where they want to build. And a lot of times they'll actually say, where can I? It isn't a case of automatic. How big can I go and still? So then, then we start with the density. We'll start with, if it's a dwelling, here's where you're at. This is the district that you're in. But then I'll start to identify, under section 14, 15, or whatever the case may be, I will start to go that. So I'm cross-referencing this ordinances in here to what's showing up on Beacon. So up on Beacon, you'll certainly see wetlands, floodplains, shorelines. And then if it starts to get very tricky, which some of them do, where we get into the slopes, you get into the setbacks, then it's like, I probably can't give you an instant answer. But usually I'm like, I can get back to you in 2 or 3 days, and I will be able to plot out something that will identify it. Then, if it comes down to like a question of how much area is there, then those get interesting too, because it's like, how big a map do you draw? Because if you draw a bigger map, then you can be a little more accurate. So like the question of like 0.9 acres, and that kind of situation where it's like, it's a really small map and you're using a really thick line, well, you could have 100%, right, just in the line itself. So it's like, okay, so then you draw it out, then you can also come back and say, if you have a surveyor. So in other words, will offer the opportunity to say, you can provide information from other people that can defend your position, or a wetland designation, or some of these other things. The one that usually is the stopped in their tracks is the floodplain. Because almost nobody wants to hire an engineer to model that type of stuff. But yeah, no, we definitely, with the people, I mean, maintain a stack of those the forms, and we're starting to fill them out, we're putting the information in. And we're going through them, and it's like, please come in or send me an email saying exactly where you want. Mark it out on there, and then I will get back to them on that and say, here's what we're talking about, and here's the location. So it's very back and forth, in some instances, it could be up to five or six emails. Usually it's about 2 or 3 that we're back and forth, and then here's where we're at. And then it'll get to the point where it's like, well, we had a couple with Ryan. That I was kind of like, well, is this, I asked him, I said, is this movable? He's like, no. And I'm like, okay, at first I was like, okay, greenery, and then I'm like, oh, we reskinned it. Because I was thinking an older building, it's just like, so, because I'm looking at your description. And it showed greenery, and it probably says 1949. And I'm like, that doesn't look like 1949, so that's what we're doing. So we're peeling through that.
Well, this doesn't have nothing to do with Martin, and I'm not picking on Martin, but by no means, but when Martin was talking about these possible rule changes on the June 4th commissioner meeting, that's where these possible changes came about. When the planning commission denied the building permit down by Holka and Wilkie Drive, then three of the commissioners, 2 of them questioned quite thoroughly that they said that the Board of Adjustment had approved digging into the bluff 14 feet. And they also, and I'm not picking on you now, I'm just, it's public record. And they questioned Martin on the 9/10 of an acre, and when they did the math, it was 8.9. And what Martin said was, he said, and he said it tonight, if I blow the picture up bigger, I can move that line out, I can get that back. The point I'm getting at here is, in the future, if we have one under 9/10, we have a theoretically approved one that was under 9/10.
Right.
If it ever comes up again. And I'm not throwing stones here.
Sure, no, and we try not to do that. It's a case of when you have an irregular shape, and you're trying to make, basically, I'm drawing little straight lines, something that's actually curved. And so when you're trying to curve fit that, you almost have to use about how the surveyor did. And so when you fit that in, and how I wrote it up is I said, and I would stick with this even today, even if I was deposed on it, that I have a pretty high confidence that map could be redrawn to show 0.9 or greater.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to bring it out to the board. I was at that meeting.
And that's how I felt, was is that I believe the demonstration could do it.
But the changes that, and I know nothing about the changes that, but the board wants to change some of the zoning ordinances. I'm talking the commission board, the way I understood it. I think you alluded it to tonight too, and what those changes are gonna be. I'm not sure on this, but I think for the changes, they have to come from the planning commission and then go to the public. And then it goes to the commissioner.
Absolutely correct. Yep. The planning commission has the authority, if they have in their charter, so to speak, they have the ability to, what's the right word? I was gonna say administrative order, they have, that's one of their process functions, is to approve things that have a formal order to it. I don't know how that works. But, and the same thing with, like, we're talking about the cannabis school. So, yeah, absolutely right, that we will do a public notice for the planning commission. We are going to give consideration for adopting this rule. And so then it goes to a formal notice there, then that recommendation will come from the planning commission. Then it goes for another public hearing for the board of commissioners to give consideration to it, so it's a double. And then they take the recommendation from the planning commission and thumbs up or down or modify or where it goes.
But
Yeah.
see, that might answer your question, Ken, if they do this, they may change the setback. I'm not saying they will, I say they may.
It's still,
I don't know.
and then even that wouldn't solve our problem. We're still gonna continue to, if splits are allowed that don't comply. Whatever the setback rule is, we're still gonna get these. And what I'm thinking is there's gotta be a way. For people to not have to spend money and our time. When we know how to fix it, all we gotta do is prevent these from the beginning. In some way, or we have them do a variance to begin with, and that would be enough disincentive to
That'll
have
get,
these splits
that'll
in.
get a lot of.
On the new splits, but.
Yeah, I'm talking about new
Yeah,
splits.
yeah. No.
We're gonna be dealing with these old splits forever.
Well, unless they change the setback, if they have new,
You'll get some that way too.
yeah, if they change the setback to 10 feet, I'm just
I
throwing a
mean,
number out
there's a
here.
number of things that.
Yeah,
I'd look at that one. Another one is possibly the 12% slope for a driveway, and that maybe go a little higher for emergency vehicles. There, the feedlot issues, there's a number of them that come up routinely, and they asked that, and Leah gave me the list, I'm like, okay, here you go.
Who's studying these?
Basically, we were looking at it during work group, so it'd be all, it was the first round was with the commissioners, and now, then we'll go to the planning commission. Yeah, with the packet, but it's a lot of stuff. It's the
I've
kind
gotta
of
go
thing-
see if my boathouse is floated away. I gotta run, so
go ahead,
Okay.
we're not adjourned, but I'm.
go ahead, go. We're just about done.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but
Thanks, Ken.
what's, what I was getting at, I don't know where it's gonna go, but. Like I alluded before to it. They may change the setback to a set amount of feet. They could even change, and I'm not saying they will, I'm just throwing it out. They may change it that anything beyond 1900, we'll just forget about. I mean, I'm not saying they're gonna do this, but I mean, these are the things, they may not even need this board at all. If they change the zoning rules, so we don't have to deal with any setbacks, they don't need this one.
That's pretty much what you guys do.
I mean, if they do it, I'm not saying they are, don't get me wrong, I'm not putting ideas in anybody's head, I'm just making a statement.
Yeah, the board of commissioners have the ability to revise what's in front of them, yes. But what is also interesting for adjustment is that when you sign these variances, they're done.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between the board of adjustment and the planning commission? Planning commission is effectively making recommendations to the board of commissioners,
And they make a decision.
whereas the board of adjustment is making a final decision. That's signed, and then you're done, you're good to go, so you can build.
The only way that can be changed is that they have to take this, they wouldn't take this board. Probably if we made a big mistake to court. And if there was money involved, they'd have to county because county's got deeper pockets. But the commissioners can't, for your sake, they can't overrule our decision.
No. That's right. And realize that in the midst of rules, they certainly say there's a need for a board that can account for existing problems. And that's what the board of adjustments is for, is to address things that were beyond your control. That's why one of the findings that we read is that economic considerations, factors, is that it's, you know, whatever the case may be, there's always unique situations. You know, very few people have the perfect lot in those kind of situations. And that's the place for the variance. Brandon, I hear what Ken's saying is that there's a lot of variances. And it's like, that's true. You know, that, you know, are there typically that, I mean, does Fillmore County do this many? No, they do not.
What is their setbacks?
There's probably a third. You know, and they're 2 per quarter. You know, they're code, and I'm not advocating this. I mean, instead of 300 pages, they're 98 pages.
Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but Fillmore County leaves it up to the townships.
Possibly there are some that are and some that are.
I know there's some townships that allow it, cause I own some land.
You think of like Newburgh and some of the, yeah,
But I don't know if it's cut and dried that everybody in the township, I
it's,
don't know how it's
it's not.
administered or nothing.
I live in Lake, I'm north of Lake. And mine, we go by.
Okay,
I think I'm near it.
well, anyway,
I think splits are just a fact of the economy and cultural things the way they are right now. We're not gonna get away from
Well,
splits.
you know, and we also have a situation where sometimes, yeah. 2 generations, and it's like, well, we want to share these utilities, or we want to do this or do that. So. They aren't always a case of 2 fancy houses, they're just 2 houses. Now, that can change over time into.
You know, I'm guilty of it too. My nephew offered to buy the farm, so I kept the house and sold the farm. So we created a split. He has right of first refusal on the house. And the split might go away eventually, but they're out there. All kinds of reasons for them.
Oh, absolutely.
In general, the splits add to the tax base, I would, or not. Or there are more houses disappearing than what you're gaining.
Assessment for the house would be a pretty big addition to.
I got a question about that Oka Township,
Wealthy house.
Jim. At finding of the fact 4, you said yes to it as long as the engineer approved, is that right? Or
Well, that's the assumption we went on, is that if it was approved by the engineer, that
Right, and I have not gotten a report yet. I made it very clear to Peter. That's the case.
okay,
he doesn't get approval from the engineer, he doesn't get the permit.
Right,
correct me if I'm wrong, but and I could be wrong, but I thought at that commissioner meeting, I thought in the motion, they had to have the approval from the soil and water also.
correct. It's a code.
That came up at the
Well,
commission meeting.
it's basically. You could put that, I mean, it's a dual review.
I don't know how much authority the soil and water has on it. I think, well, I shouldn't even say in public here, public record, but I think I'm thinking what they were thinking, and I could be wrong, that having the soil and water look at what the engineer come up, not saying the engineer is crooked, by no means, I'm not saying that.
Sure.
But that was just my little interpretation of it.
And in my notes. I did say a registered professional.
Yeah, I know you.
In that. Part of the things of maintaining your community is you have to do it with an ethics. And part of that is. The gist of it is that if you gotta do something bad, you do it. And that's part of that, is that you maintain your independence
Any more comments? No more questions?
I'm glad we had this discussion.
Well, a lot of times we're running late and then the planning commission is waiting for us. And so I thought, well, tonight we got time. And I'm trying to learn. I don't know it all. I'll be honest with you. But the only way you ask questions, only way you learn is to ask questions. If somebody's supposed to be smarter than me, will tell me.
You know, as far as the retaining wall is concerned, you know, if we get rain events like we're getting right now, and that whole hillside comes down, that retaining wall is not gonna stop that hillside. But we don't know that.
Yeah, and there's limits. But, you know, usually what you. Soil is at its natural. I just see same. Even a water. The other thing that's kind of interesting about soils is some soils actually. Not everything is finished out, something, because they get less wet. So, along those-
You know, back in 07, that one hillside down along County Road 7 by Holka,
Yeah,
the whole hill came down.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, if it gets wet enough, you just don't have issues.
And that's almost the other side of where we're talking
Close to it.
roughly.
But and I did a little bit. You know, what actually is that? rock? And it's kind of. I think it's called formation. And it's a somewhat weathered sandstone. Usually sandstone is actually pretty good. When you see the silted chert, that's when you start. So, but. I mean, could it fail? Of course. The one that always would scare me is the Jordan. You see the top of the Jordan, that's funny stuff. That one, you could dig into it, all of a sudden, a whole pile of blocks. I had that happen once. We had an area the size of a 7 inches. Fall off. It was like, okay, we're digging deep. Get rid of this stuff.
I know, construction operator did, roads on hillsides, and he said several times you run into sand and just about lost it.
Sand, not sand stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure what kind
Yeah.
of sand it was.
Right.
Yeah.
And then some of the sandstone is just really. It's not even sand, it's unconsolidated material. Well, crack sand. You know, it's fun. It's fun. It's not very sand. It's up to gradation. It's very uniform. Where, what's the first one?
They're looking at frac sand in Fillmore County again.
That's not. It's not that high.
I kind of died by the wayside.
Not only that,
Or the trucker.
that road is not a good road. That is really. Good road. You get down by Pilot Mountain.
I got one more thing.
Sure.
County 22, bottom of the hill, where they put in that pad. Is there anything,
We did,
any vines or?
we did get jet chestnut. The wetland program. St. Paul. Steve was there, I was there, David was there. And they didn't feel that area was actually. And the slope of the road down. was the right. Steve's.
So
There's, my takeaway from them was,
But they made a new road driveway.
Probably
there's that part, if that's what you have, yeah, in terms of the development part, that's the stuff. He needs to talk to you, that's it, that's a total, yeah, so that's fine.
Mhm. So it's okay for him to pull in a camper trailer?
That's the next step, that's gonna be. To be continued. We'll see where it goes.
Does he have to get a permit to put a trailer in it? Not when it's on wheels, do you?
Waves here. The idea with the campers. This actually go back to solid waste. Is that vehicles that are. Functional. Campers are supposed to be licensed, have all the safety equipment, be operable. So in other words, you can hook on them and pull them down the road. And so that's what you're supposed to have. And so we need all that equipment. I'd have to go back and look, but I think in theory, it's about every 6 months. In terms of the ordinance as far as that goes. But right, it's the tires. And then only so many retired vehicles. Then you start to get into the definition. of camper. What's
Okay,
that, 5?
Oh, yeah, and MPH. Right. The campground.
But you're right, that's exactly what's gonna happen. And he's talking with us about that. But will we watch that?
I'm just glad that Amelia, you told me he was asking about crossing onto my land to get one up on top. He never did, and I'm glad he didn't, because there is no way he's gonna cross up on top. But he could go across my land, but this land of mine is very primitive and I want it that way. I don't want a house back there. So I'm okay with him putting in the ditch down below.
Okay.
It's better than up above. So
anything else before we adjourn? Otherwise, a motion to adjourn if you're
make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.